Okay, good. I call the meeting to order. Good evening and welcome to the December 16th, 2024 study session of your Ashland City Council. This evening we have one agenda item, which is the commission and committee work plans and updates for 2025. Alyssa, I have one sign up for public forum. So Debbie Nicewander. And Debbie, you'll have 3 minutes. Alyssa will give you a single chime when you have 20 seconds left and a double chime when you get to the 3-minute mark. Please say your name and the city where you live. And if you can turn on that microphone with the little button in the front, perfect. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Debbie Nicewander, and I live in Ashland, and I've been here for 29 years now. So I'm here to babble tonight. I've got so much going on up here, I just figure if I can just let go of some things. The first one is the business meeting on December 3rd has, in the minutes, has it that I spoke in support of the master plan, and I did not. I spoke in support of the 9 recommendations staff made to change the master plan. And I want that duly noted. So thank you for that. Also, something that came up in the city manager's report regarding public restrooms. We're in winter hours right now, which are from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., which doesn't do much for the homeless folks. And that's where the scattering rubbish comes in. And it's not just the homeless folks, it's anybody out in public after those hours. So I think we really need to focus on the a couple of public restrooms, and I don't think it should fall under homeless issues. I think it's a community issue, and so I hope, it doesn't fall into one of those things to do for the homeless. I think it needs to be done for the community. Also, a lot of people are getting excluded from the night lawn, which is our designated space. And back when the camping ordinance was first put into place, we were supposed to get a map, a GIS map of where folks can be if there's no other place, and we never got that. We need that. We need to know where people can go once they've been excluded from the night lawn without getting arrested for trespass and yada yada. Also, a lot of people are getting arrested, or well, they're not getting arrested, they're getting cited violations for storing junk in public. And along with that, they're getting exclusions. I have an individual who was excluded from all parks for 30 days for storing his tent and sleeping bag and belongings. And that's not right. When you look at all the junk that's on public streets, there's a couch that's been sitting on Walker for over a month. And now it's getting more stuff put on it. Okay, so there's real junk out there that needs to be dealt with. But the homeless are being cited $265 because they're stashing their belongings. So I'm really grateful for the storage out here on the night lawn, but I think we really need to move forward on something on the south side of town so we can, this is one problem we can eliminate. These are things we can eliminate. And
thank you.
My time's up.
Yes.
And I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you for your testimony. So we move now to the commission and committee work plans and updates. And so we can just take this in the order of the council packet, I expect. Great. So that puts us starting with the Social Equity and Racial Justice Advisory Committee. And so we're looking to have each of these groups take maybe about 10 minutes total with question and answer. So if you can briefly review the progress from 2024 and then talk through your work plan for 2025. Those of us watching from home can also track along with the council packet. The information is there. But I think that gives us a nice container to have a conversation with the council. After the presentation, councilors, you'll be free to ask questions about either the accomplishments or the upcoming work plan items. And then if we have anything that we want to convey back to the committee as a group, we'll talk that through at that time. And if you can go ahead and turn on that second microphone, if anyone else is going to talk, that would be great. Okay.
Good evening. This is my last time presenting here to this body because I now have two co-chairs right here in Tara Houston and Allison Mendel who have taken over being chair of the committee. And I am rotating back to just being a country lawyer, to just being a member of the committee. And Mayor Graham, I'm looking right at you when I say this, because you and I have been in this and in creating this commission and in terms of the old work plan that was done by the council way back in 2019. And if you look back to 2019 when all of this got started and where we are now, it's really quite an amazing accomplishment. And I feel really proud tonight of everything that this committee was able to accomplish and of everybody who is sitting on the council right now who helped make this possible, especially you, Councilor Duquesne, for having made this into the committee that we are in now. I want to take the time to point out a couple of the things that have been accomplished, because although they look like they were accomplished in 2024, they started way before that. And the primary one is the DEQ evaluation and plan. I said DEQ and I meant DEI. Just goes to show you, once you start to leave, your initials just start flying out of your head. Is the DEI plan. And thank you, City Manager, now for your assistance in making sure that this plan gets implemented. Because in 2022 is when we had initially came in front of the council and asked for the funding to have that happen, and this council granted it. And then 2 years later, it looks like now, I mean, in terms of when you look at it, that it came to fruition with a list of recommendations and with a list of ways in which you can make the internal workings of the city of Ashland better when it comes to DEI. And for those of you who were there when we first established the commission, you may or may not remember, but I certainly do, that one of at the time, from the people who were on the commissions, what we wanted to accomplish was the notion of that we can help the city of Ashland internally, not just the city of Ashland globally, do better with DEI. And the piece that we have left for 2025 is hearing from the the human resources person as to how it's actually going in terms of the training, in terms of the hiring, in terms of those issues. And we had initially said we were going to ask that to happen in October, but then that has not yet happened. So if you look at both what we've accomplished and our goals, you'll see that's one of them for 2025, is to make sure that we're following it all the way through. So I really wanted to talk about that. The other thing that I feel has worked out particularly well, and Mayor Graham, I still remember talking to you about this idea when I was actually standing on the beach at Bandon. And it came to me that we could really increase our effectiveness by being seated in the individual committees, and that we all work together in a committee fashion that this council in particular has been trying to make sure is coordinated and comes back and moves down the same path. And I also still remember very clearly, Councilor Duquesne, when I mentioned this idea to you, that you said, "What?" And I said, it can help. And how it can help is that every committee has a particular charge. And that charge does not include looking at things from an equity perspective. It includes getting a job done, or it includes using federal dollars in a good way, but it doesn't include, let's look at the equity issues and let's look at what we can do about it. So when I first said it to my now co-chairs, they said, "That's a great idea, let's make it happen." And then we saw Councilor Duquesne, and I think this will really make a difference and increase both the longevity of the SURJAC committee, as well as also increase the point of view of the other committees. And I hearken back to the time when Micah Blacklight was presenting his proposal, and we worked together on that Public Arts Commission in SURJAC and had a really good interaction. And I'm lucky enough to now be involved, to be the person who was going to be the SURJAC person on the Public Arts Commission. So I feel like it's a way of making sure that our work carries forward and we are not as siloed in this sort of individual, silo, to use the same word twice. So I feel really good about those things. And then the other thing you'll see in the 2025 thing is something else that, again, I just want to point out, and then I'll let anybody else talk because I'm taking a lot of time, is, again, you see things that happened in 2024, but it may not be so clear that it's because of work that went on before that. I have been involved with making sure that we communicated as SURJAC with our sister entity in Medford, which is CADI, the Committee on Accessibility, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And then that sort of seemed to have fallen by the wayside. But the good news is they are reconstituted. They are starting again. And not only have we made those inroads, but we are starting to do that with the other committees that exist in towns and cities our size throughout Oregon, which I think is really important, that committees like us know that we're not isolated in this work and that there are other people in small towns a lot less liberal than us, doing that kind of work. I also want to point out that Precious Yamaguchi, my co-chair from before, is here today just to sort of support us in the work that we've been doing, and we miss her a lot, and we're glad that she's here. So thank you. That's it for me. These are the people who are really doing the work now.
Thanks so much for having us here. We're not going to go through the whole laundry list because everyone got a copy of the packet. But there are a few things that we want to sort of underline. And one of them is related to our charge to increase the visibility of events here in the city of Ashland. And we've got a list of them in our agenda packet item, in part because we'd really like to encourage everyone, including City Council and our fellow committee members, to participate in these really important gatherings that are about celebrating Ashland and its diversity. We've got one coming up just next month in our Martin Luther King Day celebration. And we just want to, advise folks who are interested in what's happening in our community to check out our minutes for SURJAC, because we will be posting every month some of the happenings in town related to social equity and racial justice in a way that's about celebrating the work that's happening in our community and celebrating the vast variety of diverse populations that we have here. So come on out and check out our agenda items for those bonus at the beginning, celebrating different parts of our community. I also wanted to take a moment and say we've really doubled down on making sure that we're answering the charge that's been delivered to SURJAC. And one of them was that we were charged with surveying the city of Ashland every 2 years. And that's not happened yet. So one of our main drives, in addition to working more collaboratively with other city committees, is to survey the city of Ashland and find out what our DEI climate looks like across the city. So we'll be spending this year drafting a survey. I'm hoping to get some support from SOU in analyzing that data and anonymizing results so that we can publish it citywide and really see what it's like to be a person of a marginalized identity here in our city. So that's something that I'm really proud of and excited that we've got the bandwidth now to make that happen. A lot of our work plan this year is really just about kind of streamlining what our charge is and streamlining what our operations are. So those are the not so exciting parts of the work that needs to happen. We've got to figure out how to communicate a little more effectively inside of our community and then also tell folks what we're doing. So we're looking at a lot of outreach and a lot of communication efforts to be more visible in the city. And I think that highlights the big things. So we'll open for questions if anyone's got them.
Questions? Councillor Kaplan?
Great. I have actually, I don't think my question is for the team. It's really for the city manager or maybe the recorder. And it's really picking up on what Tara you said about the finding in your minutes information about events. I think I remember way back when the business meeting agendas used to have links to minutes from advisory committees. Maybe I'm making that up, but I'm wondering if that's a possibility. Is that true? That's what I thought I
we used to
remembered.
have that.
So that's kind of a forgotten practice, and it would make it easier for all of us and also for all Ashlanders to regularly see those things to the extent that they're looking at our agendas. I wonder if that would be possible with our new system. I'm not expecting an answer tonight, but I would like to suggest that as a practice. Thank you very much for putting the information about those events in your minutes. I think it's really, really good. It's an ongoing challenge about finding out what's going on in Ashland. So do
We're trying to help.
and put it on the event calendar on Ashland.news. It's another one, and I guess the Chamber of Commerce has some opportunities too. So thank you for all your work.
Councillor Duquesne?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a question. I just want to thank you. I remember very well when all of this started before I got here, and I remember Mayor Graham, then Councillor Graham, calling me up and sharing a few things with me about the possibility of surge. It was on paper. Now it's living, and it's growing, and I'm so grateful. And good to see you, Precious. I remember the conversation. Emily, I thought, are you, what? I remember that. And then talking it through and seeing how much sense it made, I said, okay. So I do. I look forward to the growth, the survey. I'm glad that no more silos. Committee members are going to other committees to talk it over to see how we can connect and get some continuity. That's so important. So I just appreciate all of you, and thank you so much.
Councillor Hanson?
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you, Sir Jack. And Emily, thank you for your service. I'm really curious when you talk about being present at more events in Ashland and helping communicate those events to the general public. I hear that a lot from people. Folks are always so surprised when they hear about something that they're curious about, but maybe they didn't go to. So I applaud your efforts, and we'd love to see more cross-pollination and getting the word out more. But the question I had was, I'm wondering, are you going to be tabling more when you say you're going to be present at more events? What does that look like? And also, for all of us that are paying attention and care, where can we find your list of events that you're going to be at?
So this is obviously still a work in progress, but we are really interested in tabling. SOU has a ton of events.
Right.
growers markets all the time. So part of what we'll be doing in our upcoming meetings is making an event list and assigning members to go. We think just being out there and letting people see our names and shake our hands and have us explain the work that we're doing will hopefully increase our visibility. So we will post along with all of our community events in our minutes where we'll be to make sure that there's kind of a consolidated place to look for events and where you can find Sir Jack.
In fact, we're coming
Thank
to
you.
your meeting in January, your open house that you are having at SOU,
January 20th.
so that we can be there, and even if there is not an opportunity to table, but we'd like to recruit an SOU student to be on the committee. So that is the first thing that we are talking about doing in terms of making sure that we are present and accounted for.
All right, and that's at our town hall meeting,
January 22nd.
22nd.
22nd, right? Well, thank you all.
Counselor Dale.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, no questions, just a comment, just to say how welcoming this group has been. This is finishing up my first year as the liaison on this committee. Emily, you weren't abandoned. You were sitting at a table waiting for me when we came down to chat at Pony Espresso, and we had a wonderful, in-depth, very real, very long, great conversation, and really enjoyed that. And it was the start of my experience with this, and I just wanted to thank you all in the committee for being very welcoming, for having outstanding energy, for the dialogue that goes on in these sessions is outstanding. It's positive. It's reinforcing. It is. I just really appreciate all of the energy and enthusiasm, and I look forward to the work plan. Although I would say it is noted that there have been wonderful. We talked a lot about more educational opportunities, but this committee has done so much already in the past year or two for people, individuals in and around the community to come and learn more. More of that, please. The communication, the outreach is just wonderful. So thank you very much for all that you all do.
Great. Thank you all. There are no adjustments to the work plan, so it looks great heading forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we'll move on to Housing and Human Services.
Okay. Good evening, friends. My name is Echo Fields. I am chair at the moment of the Housing and Human Services Advisory Committee, and sitting here to my right is our student liaison this year, Tiana Gilliland, who also happens to be president of the ASSOU, the Student Association at SOU. So we were listening with great attention to what our friends at SERJAC were saying and helping to build better connections between many committees and SOU students. So Tiana's awesome. And so I'm going to just sort of go through quickly what we accomplished this year. And I got to get the glare off my phone. We've been busy, as a couple of you know all too well. So the first half of the year, several of us were deeply involved in creating the master plan / assessment report for homeless services for the city of Ashland. And again, I have to thank everybody who was involved in that effort because it was a heavy lift, and we look forward to seeing how it informs decision-making going forward. We had social service grant funds this year, which was awesome. And so we had great presentations from about a dozen, as I recall, social service agencies in the city. And we were able to support those groups in their efforts and to help build nonprofit capacity in the city as a whole. We have been able to make recommendations for the use of Affordable Housing Trust funds. In keeping with, we're also keeping an eye, related to that, keeping an eye on the housing production strategy. And sort of knowing that we want to keep an eye on that document and how it guides decision-making in the city. figuring out how to get shovels in dirt is the great challenge, of course, with affordable housing. So we're obviously really thrilled that the city now has some land bank lots in the Beach Creek addition, and we hope that's going to help for next year. And we've been sort of collaborating, working, communicating with the Sunstone Collaborative as their project evolves. And as a startup, it's an evolving project, but we stay in touch with them. Let's see, what else have we done? Oh, gosh. Oh, Community Development Block Grant Funds. And you all know about that because we're kind of still in process with how that's going to look going forward. Let's see. Oh, gosh. We are working on planning our housing resource fairs / rent burden event. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And one of the things that I want to talk about in particular is why Tiana's here. She didn't know she was going to do this. It's like, oh, Tiana, you go up there. Okay, so she's a little bit on the spot. But one of the things we've tried to do is to get fresh perspectives, younger voices, younger eyes. Tiana, you want to say a little bit about what you've learned so far this year? She didn't know I was going to call on her either.
Tiana, if you can push that little button in the front and the red light will come on, that'll
Yeah.
perfect.
Well, from being in this committee, I've joined in March, and I've learned a lot about how housing works in Ashland itself, and also just more about the transparency, like what all the terminology is too, which has been really great. So whenever I'm in the meetings, I'm always constantly asking questions about how that works, and also giving like the SOU perspective of it in my position. And I've just really enjoyed being in this position because, like, as a younger person, like, in the committee, I feel like I have a different perspective from other people, and I'm able to like give fresh new insight about like the projects we're doing, like especially with like the rent burden event. I'm trying to also not just incorporate just housing, but also the human services aspect of it, like more food resources and also like healthcare itself. So I'm trying to incorporate my opinions in the discussion in the committee.
Yeah, and that's what we need everywhere. So I'm very grateful, Tiana, and the other several new members we've got coming on the committee in recent months and coming up next year. Let's see. There is obviously a lot of overlap between this committee and social equity and racial justice. So what our friends from what Emily and other folks there said, yeah, we clearly have a lot of communication to do with each other. Our equitable housing plan is on our agenda for 2025. It's a jam-packed agenda, by the way, for this committee for next year. We're still kind of keeping an eye on what implications, whatever comes out of 2200 Ashland Street, how that fits in with the overall plan as well, although that's a separate activity. We will be doing our proper community education, rent burden, housing resource event in February, late February. We just learned, Linda just let us know that we get to use the senior center for that event, which is going to be an awesome space because it's big enough, it's easy to get to, and we'll do what we did last year, which worked really well, which is to have tables with folks from relevant housing-related organizations make information available to members of the public who attend. The manufactured home park zoning ordinance is supposed to be coming towards you, forward for you all next year. So there will be discussions in our committee about that. Let's see, the consolidated plan, ooh, that big, massive document. City staff, Linda's going to have a heavy lift, and Brandon on that. And I think our committee is supposed to be organizing community outreach input events related to that. We will be getting requests for proposals for the Beach Creek land bank properties, and I think that may be happening early in the year. And then we do our usual rotation of the update on fair housing analysis of impediments, and Ashland has lots of impediments to fair housing and affordable housing, as you all know. So that's, and then we've got onboarding of new members next year. So there'll be a lot of learning going on in the room. So that's what I have to tell you. Questions, comments? Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Dylan, for everything that the two of you in particular have done this year, it's been a lot. Yeah.
Questions? Any thoughts about the upcoming work plan?
I'll just say a couple.
Councilor
Yeah,
Kaplan.
just a couple words. I don't want to prolong, but thank you very much to this committee for all the work that you've done. You've taken on additional work that was never really put on your plate until the end of the year. And this committee is really plays an interesting role in that you do a lot of outreach. We talked about the rent burden forum, talked about housing resources, and also there are quite a few people that come to the committee meetings to learn what's going on or to share their perspective on what's going on. So it's in some ways it's really kind of an ideal use of the committees, in that there is that exchange kind of free flowing between members of the community and the committee, and then us, and it really puts a burden, not a burden, but a responsibility on Dylan and me, on Councilor Bloom and me, to report back to this council on the things that are going on. So thank you for all that you do as a committee, and to you too as the representatives here before us, but to the whole committee. Thanks.
Councilor Bloom.
Yeah, just briefly, thank you all. Huge workload the last year, another big one coming up next. I feel like the Housing and Human Services Committee, always is the case. You always have a lot going on. As Councilor Kaplan said, always willing to take on new projects. I also think you're really uniquely situated in the intersectionality you play within all the other committees, whether it's transportation, SURJAC as mentioned, planning, of course, and that you have that dual role of the social services side as well as the housing side, and then you take the housing side and break that up into 20 different categories as well. So thank you all for the work you do, and it's been such an incredible pleasure and honor to serve with you.
Strengthening connections between committees is something that this ECHO would like to echo. We have some folks from other committees who regularly come to our meeting, and I'm grateful for that. We have not been good about reciprocating, and I think that's something that I would like to encourage my fellow committee members to get better at next year.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming. And I also wanted to just recognize the major lift that it took to get the homeless assessment done, and that we have been using that assessment. And I think that's part of the council's commitment to our committees, is to take the good work that you're doing for us and to turn that into something that moves our community forward. And so I appreciate how much you put into that, and the entire subcommittee put into pulling that together for us so that it could be ready for us to use it in this other process. And thank you also for joining in. We are so happy always to have student members of our committees.
Yeah, Tiana's awesome.
Thank you both.
Thanks.
So we'll move on now to the Public Arts Advisory Committee. And while they're coming up, I just want to remind everyone listening from home and everyone here in the audience that our committees have the ability to put on 2 additional slots for students, for high school or college students. And those positions are full voting positions as long as the student is 18 years old. And several of our committees have recruited students, and that is working very well. A couple of our committees are still looking for their student representatives. So anyone here or in TV land who knows someone who's very interested in these topics, please take a look online and reach out to the council chairs if you're interested in serving.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Cassie Preskenis, Chair of the Public Arts Advisory Committee. Thank you for having me. We sent you a very long list of accomplishments and goals, and similar to the folks who went before me, I'm not going to go through every one of them, but there are certainly ones that I'd like to highlight for you today. And one of them is how much we enjoyed having an SOU student on our committee, and I think that's so valuable, especially with the SURJAC conversation about bringing in an equity lens, and having that multi-generational viewpoint on the committees is amazing. So thank you for encouraging that. We will be looking for another SOU student in the upcoming year, as well as a Ashland High School student. So a lot of our work in 2025 is going to be ongoing projects that we already started, and you've seen some of them, like the ODOT boxes that have been painted around town and more crosswalks being painted, hopefully in our future, as well as continuing to support some of the community projects that have come forth, like Micah Black Lights Crystallizing Our Call and John Pugh's mural, Where the Crow Lights. In addition, we have a new sort of, you've probably seen the bronze plaques that have started popping up around town, the Playwright Walk, which is also a beautiful project that was brought to the committee. And part of what we are envisioning in a strategic planning session we recently had that was led by my wonderful associate, Susan, is a strategic plan where we sort of dreamed huge, and we decided, well, why not shoot for 100 plaques at OSF's 100 anniversary in 2035, I believe it is, and try to put us on the UNESCO's World Heritage Site map. So we're really thinking, like, how can we bring more people here? How can we make Ashland this art activation destination that we really have been for so long with OSF here in the community and with so many artistic people here. So that's been really fun to collaborate with my peers on the committee and really dream about what could we do in Ashland to bring more folks here. And something that happened in the last few months that was also really cool was we were dreaming up having a member of SURJAC join our meetings to help us hone our equity lens. And we thought, well, we already have these resident experts who are doing this work. Why don't we invite someone to come and join us? And then we heard that you all were talking about the same thing. So we're very excited. Emily Simon is going to start coming to our meetings in 2025. Also recently, with the last vandalization of the Say Their Names t-shirt memorial, for the first time, the Public Arts Advisory Committee is saying, hey, let's start discussing and investigating what we can do. If there's something permanent we can put up in place there, or if there's some kind of conversation we can have with the parks about what that might look like, or some kind of acknowledgement of that memorial being there and existing there. So that feels very exciting and is a new conversation that we've just begun. And we're also really, in addition to that equity lens, trying to utilize an environmental awareness and sustainability lens. So we're talking about public art that we want to have in our community for a long time, and how can we ensure that what we're bringing in represents us as a community, as an environmentally conscious community, but also that the artwork that is being developed has that lens as well. So I think that's kind of the big picture, and touched on quite a few of the projects we're working on, so I'm happy to take questions.
Great. Questions? Councillor Duquesne?
Thank you. Hi, Cassie.
Hi.
I think it's very exciting, the list of things that are going to be happening, and being able to be in the conversations that this committee has. And I loved the retreat, and Susan, great job, when we went down and we thought big and brought it back down, but it's still big.
Yeah.
And it's still very doable. And something that I know the committee talked about was making this the art town that it is. And I wholeheartedly support that, and the vision that you have and the direction that you're going. I'm excited to see 2025 and onward, because the vision is real. It's very obtainable. And I just congratulate you all on your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Councillor Kaplan?
Yeah, just a quick question, really. Thank you for all of those things that you described, and I saw that there's going to be an update pretty soon on the John Pugh mural up there,
Yeah,
so we'll expect that.
This Thursday,
This Thursday.
they're supposed to come to our meeting, and we'll get to see the new design and ask questions. And we're really using our equity lens, and as we ask questions about that mural as well, being right downtown and front center. And we're really excited to hear the update.
Is there an update on Micah Blacklight's piece? Because that's been a couple of years now.
Yes, Micah received a grant, actually, to sort of focus his time and energy on grant writing and fundraising in order to get the sculpture moving forward. So that's really exciting, and actually is discussing with various folks in town if the best way to receive those funds, and looking at nonprofit exploring nonprofit stuff on his own as well. So yes, there is still motion in that direction and some good support. We could always use more support for Micah, and help with securing those funds is a massive undertaking. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned the 100 Playwrights Walk plaques
Yeah.
by the OSF's 100th anniversary. That's 10 per year.
Yeah, and
great.
you know what I didn't mention is all of the collaborations that we're doing. So SOU students have been designing those plaques, which is so cool. So, you know, we're working with the Thaldens, OSF, SOU, the city. So that kind of collaboration, that is just so exciting for us to get to see the SU students getting to be part of these amazing bronze plaques that are popping up around town.
That's
Yeah.
great. That's great. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I just had a question about the Say Their Names installation. I recall that the crystallizing our call came from a desire to do something more permanent, because we knew that the T-shirts eventually would not be able to stay there. They weren't a permanent installation. And so is there something new that's coming in terms of a different element besides crystallizing our call, or that is more in Railroad Park, or is there?
We don't know.
You don't
so
know.
I'm just letting you know that we're starting to talk about it. Could we put, one idea was like a big stone that says, this is where the Say Their Names Memorial was. So we're in the very beginning of just talking about, as a committee, if there's something that we want to do as a city to acknowledge that, you know, that has been there for so long and what the impact it's had on our community. So it's very preliminary brainstorming. That was our last meeting because it had just come down.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, thank you again so much for your good work, and we appreciate it, and we're looking forward to seeing what happens next year.
Thank you.
The Historic Preservation Advisory Committee.
Good evening. I'm substituting for Shelby Sharon, our chair at the time, and she fell ill this morning, so I'm covering for her.
Dale, can you get a little closer to that
Sure.
microphone, please? Maybe lift it up a little bit.
Okay. So as most of you know, I'm Dale Shostrom. I've been on the Historic Commission or Committee for the last 26 years. I moved here in 1974 and have enjoyed every year being here. So we sent you both our achievements for 2024 and our upcoming efforts for 2025 as part of your packet. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have regarding those accomplishments and our priorities and work plan for the upcoming years. First, being a member of the Historic Committee as long as I have, I would like also to share what I feel are the two most significant changes that have occurred over the years. With the recent state of Oregon changes that have encouraged extra ARUs, housing density in residential zones, we are no longer reviewing about 80% of the proposed buildings in the historic districts that we previously did. Our response is to emphasize public education, and the best way we've found to do that and achieve that is to distribute our historic brochures, which I distributed to you a couple of weeks ago. And we found that those are some of the most important things. And those brochures were produced by the certified local government, CLGs, that's sponsored by SHPO, State Historic Preservation Office, with grants years ago. Additionally, our committee budget has been cut over the years to the point where we can't afford to make use of CLG grants anymore that are available because of the significant amount of staff time and that's required both for the application process and for the administration of the grants. So the Historic Committee would ask the City Council to consider a funding source and additional staff time to amplify our efforts to more effectively educate the public about the importance and value of historic preservation. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Great. questions? Councilor Dale?
Thank you. No questions, I think, unless they come to me in real time. Dale, thank you so much for coming. And as the liaison for HPAC, this is one of the most fun committees to be on. It is the institutional knowledge sitting around that table is in the hundreds and hundreds of years, it feels like. And it's just, every crack in every sidewalk. Derek Severson is there to help us. And it's just an outstanding committee. And I thank you for all that you guys do. And as you had mentioned, the charge of the committee has definitely changed over the past few years. And it's not what it used to do, what it used to be relative to what the action items were. But you guys have really pivoted with grace and with innovation and figured out how to create educational opportunities. I really appreciate the fact that you are working with reaching out to new homeowners, existing homeowners in historic districts, and educating them about their home, thinking about ways to collaborate with other commissions. Specifically, we talked about climate in there. A lot of these older homes are not energy efficient, and you're reaching out to those homeowners and helping them with that, which is awesome. And so it's just want to say thank you for all your great work. It's just really, really enjoyable to see all that you do. And thank you again for your help on the MAC with the community center too, Dale. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
So I have a question about, Dale, you were talking about when people make changes, when they're living in a historic district and they make those changes. And I'm wondering if our community development process could potentially flag for us, and yes, Brandon, I'm looking at you and Derek, if either one of you would like to come up. If there is a way for us to basically flag an application to make sure that if the committee's educational efforts didn't land and the person then comes forward to the city and they're trying to do something in, putting up an ADU, say, that is there some way we can sort of capture that opportunity for learning and make sure that they're doing that, or are we already doing that?
So, and I'm sure Dale could probably speak to this, the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee actually comes to our office on a weekly basis for anybody that has submitted for building permits in order to review those and provide recommendations to that property owner. It's different than a land use application, which has to go through a public review. I think part of what Dale was referencing in the accessory dwelling unit is prior to them becoming permitted outright in all single-family zones, Ashland had a conditional use permit process by which the Planning Commission would have to make approval of the accessory residential unit. And that gave the Historic Commission the ability to provide recommendations as part of that planning approval. That planning approval is no longer required for 2 dwellings on any single family lot. And as such, there is not a public process other than pulling a building permit. I will acknowledge that at that point, a property owner has likely completed a design. And when they come before the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee, asking them to make significant changes is more difficult than it would have been at the initiation of a project. So. And
do we have, say I wanted to put an ADU in my backyard, is there a packet of material that I would come down to the city and receive that would tell me the basics of how to do that?
There will be as of the new year. So
I thought you were working on one of those.
We've completed the draft of it, and we've been fortunate to receive the generous donation of plans from 7 different plans that could be developed as an ADU that the city could offer free of charge to residents that want to locate an ADU in their yard. I would note that if you live in a historic district, I mentioned that the building permit process is one in which you can meet with the Historic Preservation Review Board, but you can also come down and make an appointment any Thursday when you're conceiving of that ADU in your backyard and get recommendations of how it would fit within the context of your neighborhood. And as Councilor Dale mentioned, there's a wealth of institutional knowledge as well as historic preservation expertise that could be brought to bear essentially free of charge for people that want to come and get that advice.
So that's the biggest shortfall, is that, as I said, 80% of the buildings that we used to look at, we don't get to look at. So we don't get to describe our standards to them and what we'd like to see and that sort of thing. And then now it's part of the process, but it's really after the building has been permitted, and we probably see 5% of the people who come and get their plans without really coming to the Historic Commission for any comment.
Right, and that's why I was just wondering if there's a way in that early thinking process when people are coming and starting to think about that, if we can flag for them that if they live in one of these historic districts, that these other resources are in fact available to them. And I'm sure that you're doing that with the materials that you're putting together. So I'll be interested to see those in the new year. But I think anything we can do to help people understand, as you say, before they get to the point where they've invested in a design and they're attached to it, what they can do to stay within the boundaries of that designation. Great. All right, wonderful. Well, thank you very much. And great work, and looking forward to the new year. The Climate and Environment Policy Advisory Committee.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
It's good to see you all again.
Yep, if you can turn that little button. There you go.
There you go. Now it's red. Alrighty. It's good to see you all again. My name is Mark Morrison. I'm the Vice Chair of the Climate and Environment Policy Advisory Committee. As much of a mouthful it is. I'll say CPAC from now on. I'm here in place of Brian Soll, our Chair. And first I wanted to just highlight that we've had a full committee membership with diverse representation from many community stakeholders, major institution players like the Ashland School District and SOU, as well as businesses such as the co-op, all the way major businesses such as the co-op down to local contractors. Our key achievements in 2024 is, one, policy development. We've advanced the clean air and electrification ordinance for new residential construction. We've collaborated with realtors to establish the Clean Home Energy Score system. We've made significant progress on the USD RESP loan initiative. The second major achievement we've made this year is the community engagement piece. We've obviously expanded our full committee membership and maintained that throughout the year. We strengthened relationships with other committees, mostly thanks to Linda Adams through her COCO Convo meetings. And I'm sure Linda is here somewhere. We've also made significant progress with community engagement on things like our small engine emissions and noise pollution, looking into that and gathering a lot of community feedback and having significant testimony from that. Our 2025 strategic priorities, and the number one is the short-term focus. So it's completing those existing initiatives like the Clean Air Ordinance and the RESP loan, rolling that out. Strengthening our realtor partnerships for home energy scores and keeping that ball rolling and doing a lot of the good work that Kat Gould did. Developing a Vista franchise agreement recommendations, and maintaining that full committee membership as we lose some members to attrition, like Kat Gould, who unfortunately left us. She had grad school requirements. The second thing is our long-term emissions. This is kind of even looking out beyond 2025. So long-term, we're focusing on methane emission reductions, working closely with the transportation and urban planning, as a lot of our work does overlap and has similar goals in mind. Sustainable funding source development for keeping some of these initiatives going after they kind of leave our desk, and keeping them in the works. Food waste and composting programs has been an important note that's come up many times, and finding key players and contractors or existing partners like Recology to carry out that work. And then municipal operations environmental assessments. So that's kind of more around looking at the comprehensive plan, the water update, electric plan, TSP, and having our input on those things as well. And then one other big long-term thing that will kind of in scope many years out is working on SEEP updates and updating the SEEP to be more comprehensive with realistic goals and being able to carry that forward. Some challenges we anticipate. There are implementation delays to everything, so kind of getting that slow and steady machine of bureaucracy rolling is always a fun challenge on the horizon. Being strategic with our member recruitment, maintaining momentum with that, and making sure we're folding in key stakeholders. Continuing to strengthen that cross-community collaboration as, kind of just having a multiplicative effect to a lot of the work that we do together. And then also, again, going with the SEEP update, focusing on actionable environmental progress and not focusing on actual environmental impacts and not getting stymied with things that might not matter long term. We're also looking to bolster connections between major institutions. This is some work that I'm also helping to carry out as a member of the employee of the Ashland School District who works with leadership and an alumni of SOU. I've been levering connections there as well. And then in closing, so we have a commitment to Ashland's environmental goals and carrying those forward as they are reshaped into the future. And we're emphasizing practical, community-focused solutions that have realistic, measurable impacts. And keeping on doing the good work with all of our fellow committees. Does anyone have any questions for us?
Questions? Councilor Dale.
Just a quick comment. Mark, thank you so much. It's appreciate your work as vice chair, by the way. It's a lot of fun to watch you step into that role. I just wanted to highlight one of the things you said, all the wonderfully great work that the committee's doing, but I really appreciate it's been spearheaded by you in particular, the renewed emphasis on sharing metrics, measuring things, and sharing that with the community so they can see that the steps that are being taken and how it affects themselves as individuals, their families, their neighborhoods, and the entire community, and then measure that against all of the work that still needs to be done. So that's just a critically important part of what the committee is doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dell.
Councilor Kaplan?
Yeah, I'll just a few short words as well, echoing what Councilor Dale said. Really appreciate the work of the committee, and also I recognizing that climate is so all-encompassing in many ways. It's easy to get lost, as you said, lose the trees for the forest, lose the forest for the trees. So I appreciate the efforts that the committee leadership at this point is making to really try to focus down on the things that are really going to move the needle. I think that's I think you mentioned that as something for 2025, and I appreciate that. This committee has asked this council has asked the committee to take on a couple of things, and the committee has willingly done that. And we did just even last session, we asked you to weigh in and work with the climate and energy analyst Chad Woodward on really thinking about the incentives program that we have for in the city, in the electrical department. So doing that in very short term. So really looking forward to having that focus and having the committee come back on those key tasks. So thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Councilor Kaplan.
Councilor Hanson.
Yes, Mark, thank you for stepping in, and we appreciate your leadership. I really look forward to the update on SEEP, and I hope that you have good momentum with the on-bill financing and an increased interest from Ashlanders wanting to learn more about what we're doing in this committee, and hopefully we have some more forward movement coming on the clean air work that's been doing. I know that that it's taken a minute to get this far, and I know that a lot of good work has been put into it. I look forward to seeing that further. But thank you for your hard work, and I'm just curious, what are the timeline goals for an update on the SEEP?
I believe that our Chad Woodward, our analyst, might have a little better idea of that, but I think in January we're hoping to have some finalized recommendations for council for our next CPAC meetings in January. So yeah, hopefully you'll see something come across your desk after the new year.
Great, looking forward to it. Thanks.
Great. I think there's a couple of things in terms of master plan processes. Certainly the facilities plan that's coming is going to be something that's going to have some significant climate implications, certainly as it relates to the City of Ashland's operational goals inside the SEEP. And so I think there'll be interest in the council hearing from the committee on that particular topic as it comes up. And also we'll be talking more about what the next steps are for a strategic electric system plan. We haven't quite come up with a name for it yet, but in terms of what is it we're trying to do with renewable energy across the city. And so as that process moves forward, I know our council liaisons will take that to the committee, but just wanted to point those two elements out. So as you're thinking about the work plan, you know that there's likely to be the facilities plan and then also some assistance being requested around that strategic plan. Great. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for your good work and for the thought put into this work plan, and we look forward to the progress next year.
Thank you, Mayor Graham. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. The Transportation Advisory Committee.
Council and staff, fellow committee and commission members, and all those present and watching from afar. I have one question for our Public Works Director before we get started on the long list of past accomplishment and future tasks of the Transportation Advisory Committee, although Mr. Scott may need the city's climate and energy analyst to help answer. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
If you ride your bike twice in one day, is that recycling? First, I would like to recognize and give thanks to committee members Mark Brillard, Dylan Dale, Nick David, Joe Graff, Dave Richards, Julia Summer, Corinne Viville, as well as Holly Christensen, who served until October. Thanks also to our RVTD liaison, Adam Gomez, and to our staff support, including the tireless, determined, and focused Scott Fleury, other dedicated public works staff, as well as Liz Breckerich, our recording secretary, who graciously served us until October of this year. And much gratitude to Officer Steve McLennan and other APD officers doing what they can do to keep our streets safe. And last but not least, Leah Light and Jamie Blankenship and the GIS team for incredibly mapping production. And don't forget, Councillor Hanson for his presence at our meetings and his supportive reports to Council. The TAC has been keeping our consultants and staff busy this past year in the completion of several projects. These included a public hearing on final design of the North Mountain Rehabilitation Project, review and recommendations for the climate-friendly and equitable communities, a presentation with 3J Consulting, Eco Northwest, and Jet Planning, review and recommendations for B Street corridor safety analyses, including public engagement process with Kittleson and Associates, review and recommendations of a Type 3 planning action, that's the Townmakers Croman Mill development, the Ashland Street Rehabilitation Project, which was completed with protected bike lanes and bike boxes, a dedicated street sweeper, we call it the mini Zamboni, as well as other multimodal safety improvements. Also, we had a long process developing a citywide bike rack inventory. We reviewed and rejected a proposal by Berg Scooter, probably because they went bankrupt. We supported we sent a letter of support to the council, which they signed for an RVTD grant to expand Route 17 hours and frequency. We also give our yearly crash analysis and near miss review. The TAC has an exciting biennium coming up as we finally begin the long-awaited Transportation System Plan update. In addition to working with consultants on the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant-funded comprehensive safety action plan, which will open up significant grant opportunities in the future for bike, pedestrian, and vehicle safety and systems improvements for Ashland. Both of these planning processes also align with the Vision Zero resolution passed by Council, doubling the potential for funding. The TAC will be continuing our public engagement and recommendations on ongoing capital improvement projects. The North Mountain Rehabilitation Project will be up for final review with anticipated construction to begin in 2025, and the Oak Street Rehabilitation Project process will begin. We will be identifying traffic safety, parking and bike parking, e-bike regulations, encroachment standards, signage and wayfinding through public information and outreach efforts, some in collaboration with other standing committees, established management advisory committees, the Planning and Parks Commissions, the Chamber, SOU, Ashland School District, and advocacy groups like Streets for Everyone, Rogue Valley Mountain Bike Association, and Disabled United in Direct Action, or DUDE. It does take a village. We will also be reviewing and revising Ashland's encroachment ordinance and Type 3 planning actions like the Casita development on North Main, and we will consider safety mitigation measures from the crash and near-miss analysis and continued educational outreach on e-bike safety, traffic enforcement, roadway maintenance, and any other items that Council directs us to pursue. I honor the vision that guides the Transportation Advisory Committee and the unwavering commitment of its members, the staff that supports it, and the Council to tirelessly meet, discuss, advocate, and recommend positive, progressive, and just opportunities for all citizens to conveniently and safely use the transportation mode of their choice. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm sure Scott will be willing to answer them.
Councillor Bloom.
Yeah, thank you. I really want to kind of zero in on the education piece of things. I think that when I look at the Transportation Advisory Committee, you're one of the most consequential in terms of how the citizenry, the public interface day to day when biking down the street, driving down the street, walking. They see issues, whether it's a pothole or they see changes, whether it's the new green paint on the bike lane. So I think really, going forward, increased emphasis on education, especially when we're talking about these massive transportation plans and changing roads and widths and potentially speeds. I think it's really important that we have a robust community engagement and input into how we do that. That's just my 2 cents, and thanks to everybody on the committee for the work you did and your contributions, Chair.
Thank you.
Councillor Duquesne.
Thank you, Mayor. I have to tell you, I was very excited when I read this and I saw regulations regarding e-bikes. I was like, yes, everybody.
It's all because of you, Gina. You know, that's the only reason I brought it up was because
Yes,
you
thank
kept bringing it up.
No, but because we all know that's a real thing. So thank you for looking into that. And when I was reading kind of at the, where is that? There it is. At the end of your report, it said ODOT collaborations. So I am hoping, Scott's going to answer the questions. I'm hoping that that means, I know before we had talked about ODOT and Ashland Street, and I believe that is something that the paving of the remainder of Ashland Street, and that was an ODOT thing. And then I was told, well, I'm grateful for our crosswalks there because we lost a life. However, just carrying that asphalt over and beyond where it stopped, and that collaboration with ODOT, is that part of it? Are we looking into that? Are we moving forward with that? Just say yes.
Scott always pokes the bear. So, and with the difficulties that ODOT is having now with financing, we continue to ask for things, and that's pretty much what we can do.
The legislative session next year will be a focus factor for ODOT and funding. That pavement project for their section of Ashland Street has kind of been put on hold and essentially out of the realm in the future because of their lack of overall funding. And so until they get more funding from the state, through the legislative process, there's going to be a lot of improvement maintenance projects that ODOT's going to have to put on hold. So that'll be an important discussion topic that'll happen next year. If they do get the funding they request through the legislature, then most likely that project will be put back on the books. And I've had initial conversations with them about continuing that facility type that we've installed, the city has on our section of Ashland Street. I know advocacy groups have sent letters to the Rogue Valley Metropolitan Planning Organization and also ODOT requesting that ODOT follow that design and continue that. So we have, a complete corridor for all facility users. So that's our intent moving forward, is to keep pressure on them to do the things that we're implementing that connect city facilities to ODOT facilities.
Thank you. I appreciate that because we were kind of looking at 2025, 2026. So I appreciate the follow-up. I know we all do. Thank you.
Councilor Hanson.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Scott. It is so awesome to sit on this committee as your liaison and be a part of this. The group that makes up the TAC is a wealth of knowledge, and they have seen all these pieces, and to watch them go into play and to be a part of the discussions really is interesting, because like Councilor Bloom said, the transportation system is, where the rubber meets the road for most Ashlanders. They see and feel this. And it's amazing when a citizen group comes before council and asks for bike lanes, and 6 months later it gets on the plan, and 6 months later it gets built. To see that direct correlation and those pivots and that interaction between staff and people out doing the work. We all know when we see a pothole that bugs us, but what we don't think about is all the things that are going right all the time in our transportation system, and it's likely that it goes back to this committee that you can thank the thank list. So I'll be here. First one to publicly say thank you for all your service, and look forward to 2025. We got a lot done these last couple of years, and I hope I get to be involved as your liaison these next couple of years, and if not, I'll be there in some other capacity too. So ride on, and thank you very much.
Councilor Hyatt.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you both for the hard work, and to the TAC as a committee. I do miss you guys. Having hung out with you for a couple of years. Ironically, the TSP came up in Planning Commission last Tuesday, and I was just curious if you had a brief update in terms of timeline and when we might expect that to start rolling out.
Yesterday.
Back when I started with you guys. Go ahead.
The solicitation for consultant services has been drafted. It's been approved essentially by the state. They have their advertisement package ready to go. I was expecting them to release it here before the holidays, but it's a hard time to release a solicitation with the holiday. So I expect early in the new year they'll actually release that solicitation. And then based on timing, we're probably looking at contract approval April, May, and then starting the process itself. What's a little bit different, and this has come up in conversation tonight a lot, is the current TSP update process will rely heavily on the city of Ashland itself to do a lot of the public outreach portion of the work, to get information out to the community, to receive information and input back. So we'll be looking at developing kind of a education outreach plan that the city will help facilitate as part of that, to get the input needed to update the TSP. My intent is to use the Safe Streets for All Action Plan grant to help do some of that building of that structure that we can use for the outreach component. And this will go back to the other committees and commissions as well, and using their networks and getting information from them. The surge survey is a component I think that might be beneficial for the transportation group to use to how do we facilitate input from disadvantaged and underserved communities as part of the transportation system? So that'll be a heavy lift of staff. Brandon and I have kicked it around a little bit because it involves planning and planning commission as well as part of that. So there'll be a heavy focus on that. Hopefully we can start, I'm thinking May, and we'll probably start just a touch earlier on the Safe Streets for All action plan, as long as I can get the solicitation out in January as well.
And while public engagement is really important for this whole process, there is too data collection and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's not just public engagement. It's also the consultants working to collect data.
Thank you for that. Super helpful.
Wonderful. Thank you both, and thank you for your good work. Please pass along our gratitude to your committee members. And before you head back, Committee Chair Peterson Adams, thank you so much for coordinating the Cocoa Convos, which what Linda has done.
You can change the name. Come on.
What Linda has done is above and beyond the role of being a chair, in that she has taken it upon herself to organize the other chairs into a monthly meeting, and I am fortunate enough to be able to participate when I can. But this allows them to really get together. You've heard a lot tonight about the linkages that they're seeing across their committee work, and a big part of this is because Linda gets them together in a place where they talk once a month, and they start to see these places of intersection. And so thank you, Linda, specifically for that additional bit of work that you've taken on.
Thanks so much.
And now
it's fulfilling work.
Good. Now we move on to the Planning Commission.
Just a quick note, the next two commissions are a little different from advisory committees. So these ones are, Planning Commission in part is dictated by state statute. And then our last commission will be APRC, which is just an update based on their charges in the charter.
Thank you for that introduction. My name is Lisa Werner, and I chair the Planning Commission. Good evening. And Brandon is here with us as well. He handed out a 3-page list of all the things we've done last year and all the things we hope to do next year. There's a list of the public hearings that we've had. There's a list of study session items that we've had. And there's one item, climate-friendly areas, review and recommendations. And I'd like to, at this point, clarify the Planning Commission's recommendation to you on CFAs. And that is to say that the Planning Commission recommends to Council that the CFA overlay be applied to the railroad property and the commercial area of the Transit Triangle, and that the city look for additional funding to allow the consultants to reconsider applying the CFA on the downtown area. And then the other part of the memo is what we're doing next year, what we're planning to do next year. There's a lot of things that are already teed up. We have 3 annexations in front of us, so the city might be growing. And there are a number of long-range planning items that we're going to be discussing and tackling and making recommendations to you as well on. And other than that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Do you have anything?
Questions? Councilor Bloom.
Just a quick comment. Thank you for the work you all do. You have a great liaison also who we're all going to dearly miss. As I was saying, and I think Councilor Hansen put it really well with the TAC, the rubber meets the road, the work that you do really informs the vision, the future vision, and the look of Ashland going forward. And I'm really excited with what's coming forward, so thank you.
You're welcome. And let me give a shout out now to Councilor Hyatt, who has been an outstanding liaison for us. She's been very valuable. She's helped me as a chair run the meetings when I needed help. And I'm very thankful to her for being our liaison.
Councilor Hyatt.
I'm very thankful to you, Lisa. You run an exceptional meeting. And your brevity tonight, I just want to call attention to the fact that the list of accomplishment is significant. And it is always humbling when the packet comes out and it is 800 pages short. And that's not an exaggeration. those numbers do come forward. So the team on the Planning Commission, like all of our committees, puts in significant amount of study behind the scenes, an immense amount of reading. They go to the sites and they truly dig in and try to do the best for our community, not only within ORS and our own AMC and building codes, but to continue to perform on the goals and the vision of our town. And so I thank you as the leadership and the entire committee for their diligence, and you are appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Kaplan.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the point that you did make about the climate-friendly areas. Are you asking for something, are you bringing something back to this committee at some point? Because I know that we did consider that about a month ago, and we took a decision, but I was wondering if, and I think we've asked staff to come back with something, or there was some direction to staff. Is there something more that we're supposed to be doing with that from the perspective of the Planning Commission?
You had a study session, I believe, on December 4th, and you considered the CFA and all of that. I just wanted to clarify what our recommendation was, because when I read your study session packet information, it wasn't clear to me that the recommendation that the commission made actually came through to you. So I just wanted to clarify that for you. And there's the piece that was probably new is the additional request for funding for the consultants to do additional, to reconsider the CFA on the downtown, because they did not, that was not part of the scope of work that they went forward with. And the commission was very concerned that we look at that downtown again, take a second look at it, and go ahead with the first two CFA overlays, but then also look at downtown again. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Great. Councillor Hanson.
Well, thank you for all the work that you do, and just pulling on this thread a little bit further. I don't want to belabor it, but I'm just curious. So this is going to go to the consultants and then come back to council as another study session, or how? I see Brandon turning on his mic. How is this going to play out? Because I know we've been doing some communicating about this.
So the climate-friendly area designation is a legislative change. And so what we've had to date has been study sessions directing how the consultants go about their work. We haven't yet had the public hearings that do go before the Planning Commission for formal recommendation on what's presented, and the City Council. So although we've, at a staff level, received direction for the City Council to look at code modifications in the downtown to bring parity to what the CFA would allow in the districts in which it's established, the Planning Commission wanted to see further detail in terms of how the climate-friendly area overlay could be applied to the downtown. And in order to do that work in the study, would require additional consultant work, which goes outside the scope of the contract with DLCD and 3J doing the work. And so I think that's why the recommendation is to, not to put words in the Planning Commission's mouth, but to not forego further investigation into the CFA being in the downtown area, but move forward with the process that we're under contract to do, but potentially seek additional funding to see if that study could be done for the downtown as well. And I don't think that the City Council has had an opportunity to review whether or not to direct staff to seek additional funding. So,
True. Yeah, I'm just bringing it up tonight.
Thank you.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're
and
welcome.
As I I'm often struck by those packet sizes. And that being on the Planning Commission is a different ball game than with many of our other committees. And so I appreciate your work and everyone else who does that work of really digging into the details to make sure that element of the work that we do together is effective and it meets the regulatory standards and helps us move forward. So thank you so much to you and your committee or your commission. And we look forward to lots of the good work that's happening next year. I know a lot of the goals that we have as a community we're seeing those coming through in your work plan for next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we have the Ashland Parks and Recreation Commission. And as Sabrina mentioned, this is a different type of commission. Certainly, we have our elected Parks and Recreation Commission, and they have a very different structure than the rest of our commissions or committees do. And we appreciate you being here this evening, Rocky, to give us an update.
Thank you. For the record, Mayor, councilors, manager, Sabrina. I guess that's the wrong name, isn't it? Can't even get started right. It's a long night. Thank you for allowing me to come and share. Good, I wasted enough time to get the old slideshow up and running. So, as you alluded to, we're part of the city, but we're just kind of over on the other side. We have an elected body. We do a lot of great work for Ashlanders, and I'm the one assigned to kind of help implement all the great policy work out there to put smiles on everyone's face. As been discussed, we have an elected body of 5 members. Earlier today, we brought in 2 into the fold, so it was a great time, and they hired me to implement and do the good work. But really, it's my staff that does the good work. And what we do is we provide community spaces, both outdoor and indoor. We engage the community in learning and staying active, and we connect the community to the people and to the place of Ashland. And most importantly is we create memories. Really, we're in the memory-making business. You come to our parks, you come to our facilities, you meet great people, and that's what you're talking with your family about 5 days later, 5 years later. And this is 29 of our 36 members of staff that really do the great work, the heavy lift. Out at our little golf course, a little 9-hole out there, celebrating the end of Labor Day, the peak season, and the change in the weather allows us to change our work. If you're more of a org chart person, we've got that broken down. As you can see, most of our employees are on the operation and maintenance side. Small. Sorry, I thought there was some background music there. We're going to change into a little mosh. Yeah. Senior Services Division and our Recreation Division, which provides our staffing for our education, natural environmental education program, as well as the traditional recreational services and volunteers, recruiting all those volunteers. So our accomplishments is really, we brought a lot of people into the fold this year. If the staff person's name is highlighted in gold, they're brand new to the city. So we've stolen them away from some other community to come here and be part of our team. Those that are in blue, we've promoted or moved around to meet the current operational needs. So we have a whole new janitorial team. So these 4 people are out there 7 days a week, 365 days a year, opening and closing and cleaning all of our restrooms. So it's a small team. It was something we used to contract out, but we were having some concerns, and so this is a brand new thing that came on in the last year. We've got Shannon Holt as our new Senior Services Coordinator, so she's the one that's making the magic happen and getting all those people in the door at the Senior Center. We're breaking numbers. We're beyond what we've done in the past. We've got a new golf program manager, Brian Weaver, so he's a PGA pro who's here, has got a lot of experience with golf, and we're looking forward to see him expand our program there. Our environmental education manager, she just came on board last Monday. Still came back today, so yay. Kirsten came. We promoted Natalie from being the Senior Services Coordinator to the Senior Services Superintendent over there. And you've got a very caring and compassionate and dedicated professional there for working for all of you. And then there's me, just the guy who's here just trying to make new things happen. So, or really continue to perpetuate all the great work that's been done by my predecessors, all the people here in the last 116 years. In recreation, we're doing a lot of stuff. We have a brand new guide that just came out, so you probably have seen it. It's electronic, it's print, it's pretty purple croquette, I think is the way that flower is, one of those first flowers of the year. Thank you. We also have a brand new chiller coming for the rink. Supply chain such is it's going to be early for next year, and fingers crossed the chiller is going to continue to work this year. And that middle picture there on the bottom of that white cover, we put a brand new cover over the ice rink, so that's a brand new cover that we just got installed. So it looks bright, shiny, and new, and people are really enjoying that. We had a few events. We sponsor our own events like the Bear Creek Salmon Festival, the 4th of July Run, the Rogue Valley Bike Swap, and the Rogue World Music Festival. We also are a place for a lot of other events. So the Monster Dash, of course, Southern Oregon Pride, the Summer Sounds concert series, those 2 concerts which were very popular. Just to name a few of the events that are occurring there. It's a lot for one page, and I apologize, but I'm trying to keep the slides slow tonight. So on our park operations, almost 38,000 toilets get cleaned a year. Almost 17,000 bags of trash or get pulled out of the cans and pulled out. We manage 53 miles of trail. We have over 531 acres of open space or natural area that we manage from a fuels reduction as well as from a recreational perspective. We are out there in the boulevards, that sort of main street, that first impression that people have coming into the city. We have over 672 irrigation zones. Sometimes we get a zone wrong, but we do a great job in all of our areas. We have our arborist, of course, is helping not only park trees, but all the trees on other city property. And we just maintain a ton of properties. Our senior center, you know, their mission is to enhance and empower and advocate those over the age of 50. And in another couple of years, I think I qualify for reduced lunches, so I'm pretty excited as well. It's like going back to middle school or something. Remember those days, those yeast rolls? Maybe it's just me. Gosh, I have a soft spot for them. And maybe you can tell by my size. The program statistics, so this is our numbers for this year, and you can see they're all growing up between fitness and rec and education, our service in total. But that really doesn't mean anything if you don't look backwards. And if you look from 2018 when we rebranded, restarted the program to now, you see the smiley face. And so there was a lull during those COVID days, and you can see we're bounced back, and that green bar total is higher than it has ever been since 2018. And so that is just a great testament to the work and the community valuing that program. We have our draft capital improvement plan that's out. We just closed our public comment on Sunday night at midnight, and we're pulling all that together to bring back to the Parks Commission on January 8th for review and hopefully adoption. So this is the first one we've done in this format that I'm aware of, where it's a 6-year plan. So it's a 2-year budget that'll inform our budget that we bring forward here in the next couple months, as well as a 4-year look ahead and looking at what we'd like to accomplish to meet. It's a total of about $24 million identified over that 6-year period. And we found over $50 million in projects in deferred maintenance and enhancements that are needed or wanted to meet our recreational demands. So we're trying to manage those limited resources the best we can. And I want to take a shout out to all my team who invested their time in creating this project and kind of getting us moved forward. Planning projects next year is going to be parks meetings. You're going to get tired of hearing about another parks meeting, hopefully. We've got our Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Senior Services Plan. So it's a 10-year strategic plan. Again, the idea is to engage the community, identify what are they doing, what do they want to do recreationally, outdoors-wise, and really look at a level of service model so that we can not only measure our performance based off of what our standards are, but we can compare ourselves to other communities based off of a per capita basis in regards to how we're doing. So that if we're doing great, we can pat ourselves on the back, and if we're not doing so great, we can continue to sharpen the pencil and figure out what to do. The other thing that we're working on at the request of our commission is looking at a 5-year, what I'm calling operations plan with the Oak Knoll Golf Course, continuing to renew it from the drought of 2 seasons ago and bring it back and really identifies how can we make that the best resource it is for the acreage for those users and everyone else who should be out there using it in different ways. Lastly, we have several capital projects. So East Main Community Park, we're doing phase 1. We got that $1 million grant from the state of Oregon, lottery dollars. So please, you buy a scratch it. It all helps all of the parks. And we're working on, knock on wood, coming up with identifying exactly what that level, that phase 1 is. We just got our 90% construction plans to do everything that's identified in that park, and it's well over what we have money for. So it's about $5.5 million, and we won't have that much. So we got to figure out what phase 1's going to be. The Butler Perazzi Fountain Restoration was just an amazing testament to the community. In 1916, 2 guys, maybe you've heard of them, Butler and Perazzi, they bought this thing, brought it up here, and had it developed. We had it repaired once, and now the community raised $800,000 to make to restoration again. And so we are finalizing those restoration documents so that we can go out to bid in the spring and hopefully get this thing redone for the next 30, 50, 70 years. Hunter Parks Tennis Courts, major maintenance, so that's another grant that we got, $720,000 to do heavy restoration there. We'll be putting over a pre-stressed concrete panels to improve that court and bring it up hopefully to where we don't have to worry about it until after I retire and the next guy or gal retires. So we're hoping it's a long-term improvement. Continue to look at making ADA improvements to improve accessibility in our parks. We have a trail reroute on Siskiyou Mountain Park. We have some steep sections that are just not sustainable, and we're looking to reroute those to make them better for maintenance as well as from a user's perspective. And of course, we've got all kinds of buckets of preventive maintenance for hazard trees, facility improvements in regards to preservation and pavement preservation so that we can continue to extend the useful life of those assets we do have. And with that, last questions of the night, hopefully.
Councillor Bloom.
Thank you. Thank you. You're quickly becoming my favorite presenter. So I hope that you come forward more often with more of these slideshows. So just first of all, I'm really impressed by this kind of really methodical, forward-thinking vision for what Parks and Recreation can be. It's nice to not see any complacency, and there's certainly none of that here. I think a lot of people in the city are aware, and probably throughout the county, that there isn't really a lot for young people to do, teens, kids, and families. Over the last 20 years, I've noticed that there's been less and less in the recreation kind of handbook of things to do, and really that's kind of, I guess, the community's way of being able to do outreach, provide opportunities for young people. So I'm just curious if there's some thoughts, conversations that are having in the background about how we can expand more of those recreation activities, classes for the youth and teenagers.
Thank you, Councilor Bloom. That's a great question, and it's one that has been asked a few times recently, and we're continuing to try to look at it. The first thing to do is look at what we did have in the past. And so, as I understand it, the Grove was built to be a teen center, and it was from another site where it was. And there was a funding stream that helped support that. That funding stream is no longer in place, but it seemed that whatever we were offering at that time, we weren't getting the utilization that we really needed. And I think that's part of what I'm hoping that the strategic plan does, is through that engagement with the community and those stakeholder groups that are focused on those different user groups. We should have, from baby to adult, beyond my age, whole life cycle of recreational activities, and continue to try to do that. And so that is hopefully a goal. Well, it's not hopefully, it is a goal that will get some good information that will lead us to hopefully improve that service.
Quick follow-up. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And it's these classes, these recreational opportunities. It's not just for people here in Ashland. It's people throughout the valley can utilize those. And I think that it's a really good way for us to advertise as a city throughout the valley that this is a really great place for families to live. My one last quick follow-up is regarding the Daniel Meyer Pool, which I'm really excited about. That's kind of in the CIP plan earlier. I think that this is a really great opportunity, and I think that when there's conversations, and it's mentioned in the report here, about how can APRC and the department work with the broader values and goals of the city of Ashland, I think that there's huge opportunity there for economic development, an equity lens, and again, fostering this kind of culture of fun and activities. So I think a pool is great, but I certainly would be supportive of something bigger.
Thank you for that.
Councillor Hanson.
Thanks, Mayor. And thank you, Rocky, for the great presentation. I too love your slideshows. And looking at Ashland, well, when you come to Ashland, many visitors really experience our parks first. And then it's the last thing that they talk about and remember, like you said. So kudos to our founders and our staff throughout this last century, really furthering Parks and Recs and getting us to where we're at now. It's absolutely gorgeous. And the charge of obtainable parks is being met here for all Ashlanders for livability. And we're looking at, how do we best improve? How do we best position for, our next phase of Ashland? And my question is, in the CIP, I didn't see the outline specifically a line item for trails and trail development. In the last biennium, we had some money set aside that we used to build 3 new trails and acquire 3 new properties. And it was really, really helpful to have that in there. And I'm just curious if we're looking at a same strategy in this document and moving forward, and what your thoughts are on funding streams for trails and trail development, for not only for hikers, walkers, but mountain bikers and other rollers.
That's a good question, Councilor Hanson, and I think it's multifaceted. So I'm going to use the new guy card. I'm going to put it on the table again.
Sure.
Always is that as being the
You
one.
already played that card though.
I'm going to keep playing it. Eventually it won't work, but yeah.
There's a couple in the. It's like the Joker card. There's a couple of them.
It's my deck. I got 52 of them, but so I think it's a couple fold. So first thing is we just are in the process of formalizing our Trails Advisory Committee. So we're having an actual formalized committee for our commission on that. Before it was an operating ad hoc committee, and so we're making that transition. So I want to make sure that they come up to speed and we have a good understanding of what our current portfolio is. We have a lot of trails, and we need to make sure that we're looking at through the lens of litigation and our risk in regards to those systems. Not so much of the systems trails we've built, but there's a lot of other trails out there that we need to manage and make sure that people aren't using those, because if it's out there and we're not taking care of it, it can be something that we need to be responsible for. So that's a part of it. This 6-year plan gets updated every 2 years. And so as we move forward, we were looking at, when I got here, the biggest concern I heard was we need to take care of what we have. Mm-hmm. And so that's where, in talking with staff, that Siskiyou Mountain Trail was for the first and highest priority in regards to that reroute. And so I think that was making sure that we're investing in what we already have and before we're adding to the system, and giving us a little bit of time with this new Trails Committee to look at what those policies and procedures are going to be for as we look at developing new trails, as well as balancing that those people that are out there that are not following the rules, and making sure that our watershed, that whole system is managed not only for the recreational value, but also those natural resource values. Mm-hmm. And lastly, my get out of free jail card is that as things come forward, this plan can be updated through action of our commission to add projects and do those other things. So if there was a project that came out of it, we could still go back through the process and look to identify how we would fund if there was a trail that did come on board. And lastly, we have this park called East Main, and it's going to have this really cool pump track and skills course. And so we are developing something that's not a linear trail, but it is an amazing resource that hopefully will be on the ground this biennium.
It sure is. It sure is. And kudos to your department for coming to the table with so many grant funds. This particular park has $1 million grant fund to help build this pump track. So thank you. And also thanks to the wonderful commission that we have, our elected body that is focused purely on parks and managing parks and parks improvement. And the new relationship that this town has with economic development and parks, and really putting our best foot forward in our region for being a destination for parks, for Lithia Park, for our trails, for our senior programs. I mean, you name it. We just really are world class in your department and in your leadership. It's thank you for joining the team, and it's great. So,
well, thanks for the kind words, and I'll make sure my team hears those as well.
Right. Yeah. What did you say? 36 staff do a lot of work, and it's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
I do. I think often when I talk to people and they talk about their sense of place here in Ashland, it really is about our parks and the open space that we've protected and the different things that we create that allow them to take their families out. And so I know my children have certainly benefited incredibly from the Parks and Recreation process that we have and the programs. And I would also second Councilor Bloom's question around the young people. And I know that in talking with the folks at the school district, they need to make sure that they've got enough young people. When I talk to people in the community, they want to see Ashland really be this vibrant place where there's a lot of young families. And this council has grappled with what is the council's role in all of that around early learning and providing grant funding and that sort of thing. And so it's great to hear that conversation is happening for you all too, because I think one of the things that we can do with these two elected bodies is to really think about how can we be pulling in the same direction towards some of those larger community goals. And so it's great to see the update. Appreciate you coming out tonight and look forward to the good work that's going to happen next year.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So we have, as we're closing up this evening, before we get over to the refreshments, I just wanted to thank everyone who is involved with a committee or a commission at the city here. As you know from looking at any of our agendas, this council has to move from very different topic to very different topic, sometimes with only a minute or two in between. And the way that we are able to do that successfully is because we have committees that are organized around the primary things that are important to us as a community. And you will have seen that this evening. The people coming up, they're talking about the topics that are very important to us that we want to move forward as a community, and that we need additional help to do it. We need those people who will take that deep dive and go find out what are best practices for doing this particular thing. What are the options that we might take up as a council to move us towards a particular goal? And so the committee and commission work is an integral part of this process we have where we govern ourselves and where we move towards our goals as a community. And so for everyone who is involved with a committee or a commission, thank you. Thank you so much. We know that when you come out to do your committee work, you are taking time away from your family, from your job, from your other parts of your life that you care about, and investing that in your community, and it is much appreciated. You will have noticed that we've been doing quite a lot at the council level in terms of reorganizing our committee structure. And we've just passed an ordinance that reworks the general structure of how committees operate here at the city. And the next step is a rechartering of all of the committees that came forward this evening. And so that will be coming in front of the council in January. Council or committee chairs, you'll be seeing a revised version here in the next week or two to take a look at before we take this up as a council, but really trying to streamline the operations, making sure that all of our committees have a consistent structure and have a consistent way of operating that is understood and easily followed. And in that, I know that there are some questions that people are asking about terms, because we've created some term limits to try to bring on new blood into our committees in different structures. I wanted to let you all know that we haven't decided yet what exactly happens with people's terms, but we are expecting to have people carry through to the end of the year. So if your term ends in April, we are expecting to ask you to stay on till at least December. And then there are a couple of committees where there are so many people who have been on for so long that there may be some hybrid processes that we do for particular community committees to make sure that these new policies are not too disruptive. But all of that will be coming to you in January. And until then, thank you all so much for your hard work. Please stay and enjoy some refreshments, and let us thank you for all of the good work you do for our community. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.